Fear. Dread. The feeling of being watched. That empty feeling you get when you can sense that someone is watching you from the shadows. Someone or something. An unseen force that you can't see. Something that could be judging you, mocking you, or in this case, preparing to attack. There's a lot of video games out there that give you this feeling, but no other game series does this better than Five Nights at Freddy's. You're alone, stuck in a cramped office with no one else, and your only friends are your office doors. You pull up your camera monitor and look through the rooms of that dark pizzeria and you see the animatronics. They're looking directly at the cameras. They know you're watching them, and they know where you are. It's only a matter of time before they get to you. Fear is what makes a horror game a horror game. A good scary horror game doesn't rely on just jump scares. It builds tension, panic, and terror, and that's when you drop the jump scare. The FNAF games are good with this. Sometimes you lose track of an animatronic and it's only a matter of time before they pop up, scare the crap out of you, and then murder you horrifically. If you're going to jump scare someone, you gotta do it right. There's a ton of FNAF fan games out there. Like, a lot of FNAF fan games. You know when I said that there were hundreds, maybe even thousands of fan games out there on that previous list? Yeah, that was an understatement. It's safe to say that there's hundreds of thousands of fan games out there. Some of them are truly amazing, and then some of them are so bad that they just need to be removed and never shown to the public. Like this game, for example. So I mentioned fear at the beginning of this video. That's the topic of today's list. Fear. What are the scariest FNAF fan games out there? What do they do to make it scary? And why are the things that are in these games terrifying? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing. The top 5 scariest FNAF fan games. I once again got the people in my Discord server together and we came up with a list of scary FNAF fan games. Since you all love my top 5 hardest FNAF fan games list, I felt it was time to make another list for you guys. And don't worry, I won't make the same mistake I did last time and put 2 games from the same series on this list. That was pretty unfair. Now, for the rules. There aren't any specific rules this time, but here's the most important thing to focus on with this list. The game has to be scary all the way through. There's way too many FNAF fan games that are scary at first, but once you play it enough and get jump scared a few times, you get used to it. No, these games need to be scary throughout your entire time playing them. That fear and dread needs to stay consistent. So that's the only rule, if you want to call it that. And of course, these game choices are entirely opinion-based. If you disagree with the choices here, feel free to comment down below on what you think we should have chosen for the list. And we might make another list on this topic in the future. So without further ado, let's begin. I haven't been on a lot of cruises in my life, but the ones I have been on have been pretty fun. I've always had a lot of fun being on boats, whether it's sailing, fishing, or anything else. Being on boats in general is just a lot of fun, unless it's an abandoned boat that's been floating in a dirty lake for 30 years. Oh, and did I mention that there's a bunch of rotting animatronics on there that, despite being broken down for that long, can still function? Oh, and they can still kill you. There's that. The Five Nights at Mac Tonight series overall is pretty scary. Whether it's in a McDonald's or a dark warehouse, good old Mac Tonight will find some way to murder you in cold blood. And this time, Mac took his killing spree to the open seas. Or open lake. The boat he's on is the McBarge, which is floating in a lake. Never mind, you get the picture. Five Nights at Mac Tonight 3 was a surprise entry into the Five Nights at Mac Tonight franchise. Photonegative Mickey worked on this in complete secret and told nobody about it until the release of the Night 1 beta back in May of this year. You take the role of an unnamed dude who decides that he wants to work as a night watchman of the abandoned McBarge while it's being remodeled as some sort of deep-sea discovery center. Why anyone would want to sit in a creepy abandoned boat for a week is beyond me. Pretty amazing what some people will do for cash. So, Night 1 begins. You look around the cameras and listen to the phone guy ramble on about how the McBarge is being remodeled and such, and then he mentions that his crew found these very old, run-down animatronics that were active on the boat back in the 80s, one of them being Mac Tonight from those famous McDonald's commercials. And boy does he sound really excited about it. But little does he know, while he's talking about Mac Tonight, you notice something in the cameras. A figure. It's Mac Tonight. The old, deactivated, rotting Mac Tonight animatronic is standing up, and he's looking right into the cameras. at you. Sitting in a rotten office with only a desk lamp is creepy enough, along with the creaks and groans of the boat and the sloshing water outside, but that feeling of dread when you see robots that have been rotting on a boat for 3 decades come to life makes it almost overwhelmingly terrifying. And it doesn't stop there. Not only is Mac Tonight present, but so is the Hamburglar, Mayor McCheese, Uncle O'Grimacy, and even Captain Crook, sword and all. They're all alive, and they're all ready to get their murder on. Your only means of defense against these undead robots are the broken pipes in your office and the ceiling in the McBarge. The phone guy mentions that it's essential that these priceless creations shouldn't get any more damage than they already are, and most importantly, don't get them wet. And that's the key. When the robots enter your office, all you have to defend yourself is that dirty H2O. And then there's the Hamburglar, who tries to get to you through the ceiling. And then Grimacy just stands there menacingly and takes all of your water until there's none left. If you're looking for a fun but scary FNAF fan game, Five Nights at Mac Tonight 3 is a perfect choice. Unless you're brave enough to move on and try the next games on this list, that is. The link to Five Nights at Mac Tonight 3 is in the description below. So here's a fun fact about me. I have no problem handling horror games. Sure, I can get jump scared and overall terrified at some games, but they never leave a lasting effect on me that causes nightmares or anything. But when it comes to horror movies, that's a different story. Watching an extremely scary movie will scar me. I watched The Woman in Black a few years ago, and that freaking movie scared me so bad that I had nightmares for days. So you might be asking, why am I talking about horror movies? Well, to build up the specific movie I wanted to mention, The Ring. You probably know that movie, the one where you hear that creepy girl whisper, 7 days, through the phone, and then a horrific little ghost girl comes out of a well and crawls through your TV screen? Yeah, that movie. You're never going to want to turn on a TV again after watching that monstrosity. And now you're probably wondering why I'm talking about The Ring. Because this next game I'll be discussing gave me immediate vibes of that movie as soon as I saw the reveal trailer about it. Yeah, you know what time it is. The only FNAF fan game to feature something like a TV and TV channels instead of cameras? Five Nights at Wario's 4. Or Wario's, as some people said I made it sound like in the last list. Did you ever wonder if you'd see Wario diving out of a TV screen to murder you? You didn't? Well, here it is anyway. Five Nights at Wario's 4 appeared on my previous list, the top 5 hardest FNAF fan games, as the 3rd place spot, so that's interesting. On that list I was discussing the difficulty of the game and why it was hard. But this time I'll be talking about the utter terror this game will bestow upon you. For those of you who played this game and are watching this, you know what I'm talking about. This game is absolutely terrifying. Five Nights at Wario's 4 takes place in the mind of Richard McRoy, one of the most well-known characters in the Wario series. He's having nightmares of the Mario gang appearing in his TV channels because of the horrors he saw when working in the factory where Five Nights at Wario's 1 took place. Nightmares. The perfect setting for horror. It's a dream, so your mind can come up with some pretty terrifying things. I rarely have extremely scary dreams, but I do remember bits and pieces of some pretty bad ones I've had, and man, it's hard to understand how our minds can come up with things like that. The mechanics of this game are pretty simple. I explained them in the top 5 hardest FNAF fan games vid, so if you'd like to see a rundown of how this game works if you don't know already, I highly recommend checking that list out. So what makes Five Nights at Wario's 4 so scary? Well, what's the thing that usually creates fear? The unknown. Not knowing what's going to happen next is one of the scariest things ever, and it really hits home in Wario's 4. WWW Wario knew what he was doing when he made this game. A new character is added every single night. On the first night, it's just Wario. The next night, he adds Mario. Then Luigi. Then Waluigi and Peach. And finally, Demon/Nightmare Wario. Every night has new horrors that await you, and there's no clear way to predict the character's movements either. You never know what channel Wario will show up in, when Luigi will pop up to scare the crap out of you, when Waluigi will be charging right for you, or when Peach will be hanging there in certain channels. I was on edge all throughout this game, and many people I know have said the same thing, and that's why Wario's 4 has made it onto this list. I highly recommend checking this game out if you're in for some good scares. The link will be in the description below. You guys won't believe what game I'm going to be talking about next. The scariness of this game is really gonna sting. Hey, comments, I see you. Stop being such a buzzkill. Okay, I really need to freaking stop. The Jolly series, created by the one and only Ivan G. You all know it. The series that features a giant animatronic bee that walks around and kills people, along with a creepy bird robot and an animatronic cat. Oh, and Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy squeeze their way in there too, so it's one big happy family. No, Molten Freddy, I'm not copying you. Go away. All of the games in the Jolly series, while being really good, haven't really been all that scary. Well, all except for one game. The game where Jolly decides that he doesn't need his mask anymore and reveals a legit rotting human head underneath. How lovely. You all know what game I'm talking about. Jolly 3, Chapter 2, the most recent addition to the Jolly series. Jolly 3 Chapter 2 hasn't been out for very long, but it very quickly became one of the most popular fan games of this year, and many big YouTubers played it, such as Corey Kenshin and Markiplier. There's a lot of reasons why this game is popular. The gameplay is unique and challenging, the story is interesting, and the game is just great. But here's the best thing about this game. It's freaking scary. And no, I'm not saying that just because of Jolly's overcooked face. While that's terrifying on its own, there's plenty of other reasons why this game is just downright horrifying. Now, before I continue, pretty big spoilers inbound for Chapter 2. To avoid in-game spoilers, skip to the timestamp I'm showing at the top right of the screen. But if you already know what happens or don't care about spoilers, then suit yourself. Chapter 2 takes place directly after the events of Chapter 1. You're once again controlling the player you controlled in Chapter 1, and you're heading into the Jolly Underground facility because there's a chance that a deactivated animatronic could be down there. And oh boy, if you're going into this game blind, you have no idea what terrors are in store for you. After exiting the elevator you start in, you're standing in complete blackness. Well, time for the Outlast part of this game and get some night vision going. Night vision is always scary because imagine if you saw some scary robot standing there when you hold up your phone. Oh, wait, that's actually what happens. Yep, we're screwed. Once you've finished up all 5 nights, you're able to uncover that deactivated animatronic. And it's none other than Springtrap. And what makes this even cooler is that this ties into the actual FNAF story. You play as a worker for Fazbear's Fright, and you're the one who brought Springtrap to Fazbear's Fright. So that's really cool. I would talk about the good ending, but we're here to talk about scary FNAF fan games. Maybe I could talk about that in another top 5. Alright, now we're out of major spoiler territory. On to why this game deserves the number 3 spot on this list. Your main 2 threats are Jolly and George, with Tweety and Maxie appearing as horrid hallucinations that will very much screw you over if you allow them to attack. Jolly attacks from the left and George attacks from the right. When you know if Jolly or George is at your door, you use the jammer in your office to get rid of them. While it's actually quite easy to deal with George since his eyes show up in your right door, dealing with Jolly isn't so easy. You have to watch him carefully on the cameras because he makes no noise cues when he's right near your office, and it's incredibly easy to lose track of him. This is where the fear of the unknown makes a return. There's times in this game where you have to play around with luck, and most of the time, actually a lot of the time, it will end in you getting horribly murdered. Losing a character on the cameras and having no idea where they are is just... it's the absolute worst feeling in the world. And to make things even worse, you never know when the jump scare is coming. One thing that Ivan did really well was add that little moment of apprehension right before the lights turn back on after you use the jammer. Will I live? Or will I get murdered? I'm about to find out! Add the cameras, ventilation, and AC breaking into the mix, and you've got a terrifying and stressful game on your hands. Oh, and don't forget the decrypting sections in between nights, which is a love child of FNAF 4 and FNAF 6. Have fun! Link is in the description. Hell, the ultimate punishment of sins. The place where the evilest of the evil people go. The place where someone will serve an eternal sentence for all the terrible things they've done. So, why not make the pizzeria from Five Nights at Freddy's the main focus when you're making a game about someone in hell? Imagine yourself in pitch darkness. Darkness so black that you can't even see your hands in front of your face. There's a coppery taste in your mouth, and you feel something trickling down the back of your head. All you hear is your own shallow breathing, your heartbeat, water dripping, and some very faint groaning. You find a flashlight, flick it on, and find yourself in a rotting pizzeria. You're probably wanting to dive out of the nearest window now. Too bad, because there's no window anywhere in sight. Something that I mentioned earlier about this list is the fear of the unknown. You stare into the inky blackness, not knowing what terrors await you, and you let your imagination get the best of you. You start to panic. You begin imagining how bad things will be for you, what kind of demons are waiting to strike. I'm talking about A Shadow Over Freddy's. How do you make FNAF even scarier than it already is? Take the player and put them in the original pizzeria from the first game, make it black and white, extremely dark, and make the only light source a flashlight. Yeah, that'll do it. Plus, it's point-and-click free roam, so that makes it a lot more interactive. In A Shadow Over Freddy's, you play as, wait, spoiler warning, skip to the timestamp up at the top of the screen if you'd like to find out the story yourself. Alright, if you're still here we go. You play as William Afton, and the pizzeria in this game is his own personal hell. Throughout the game, the puppet tells you creepy stories about a child who grows up to be a monster, and eventually ends up turning into the horrible human being that is the William Afton that we all know today. It's a very interesting story that fits in with William Afton's story from the FNAF lore quite well. Props to Feistum. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Whatever it's pronounced as, this was a very creative way to tie in the FNAF story. Alrighty, now we're out of major story spoiler territory. A Shadow Over Freddy's is just, let's say it's fear and dread put into the form of a game. You never feel safe in this game, even on the first night where nothing attacks you. Each night you're given a task that you have to complete. Not only do you have to move through the pizzeria while avoiding Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, but you also have to complete the assigned task before it hits 6 a.m. or you'll be attacked. Yes, to add on to the stress, 6 a.m. isn't your friend anymore. It's your enemy in this game. And the jump scares. Oh my lord, the jump scares.
Ooh. Okay, alright.
I feel you, Sam. I feel you. Let's just say that I wasn't brave enough to play through this whole game. I got jump scared twice on night 2 when I stopped playing, and that doesn't happen very often. Are you brave enough to try this game out? The link awaits you in the description if you'd like to try it out. You know those thrilling chases in games and movies? Get your heart pumping, doesn't it? Whether it's a fast police chase or the protagonist running away from evil, chase scenes are always a thrill. And throughout the chase, anything could go wrong. The protagonist could trip and fall, or slow down enough to be caught by their pursuers. You root for them to get away from this chase. But what if you're the one being chased? Especially if the chase is in first person, you feel like you're in the game, and you can hear the thing chasing you. That's absolutely terrifying. There's not a whole lot of FNAF fan games that involve being chased, but there is one specific one where you being chased is a big part of the game. The Joy of Creation, Reborn. A game from Nixon once again appears on one of my lists. As I said in the previous top 5, Nixon is a fantastic developer, and his games are all very well praised, like Those Nights at Rachel's and the Joy of Creation story mode. The Joy of Creation Reborn, while being very much like story mode, is a completely different game mode. In the story mode, you're confined to certain rooms with limited movement. In Reborn, however, you can move freely, and you have gigantic robots sprinting after you. Could you imagine walking into the hallway in the middle of the night and seeing Freddy standing there, and then his lights come on and he charges towards you? Yeah, not something I'd like to think about. The Joy of Creation Reborn is scary for different reasons. It doesn't fall into the fear of the unknown category, since you know what the enemy is, and you definitely know when the enemy is coming. No, it falls into that terrifying feeling of being chased category. The levels in this game have a pretty simple concept. Collect all the required objects within the time limit. Sounds easy, doesn't it?
No.
Yeah, it would be easy if these killer robots didn't seem to know where you are at all times, and all you get is a measly 60 seconds on the Freddy and Bonnie levels. You get a little more time on the Chica and Foxy levels, but not that much more. Let's go over what happens if you walk into Freddy's line of sight on the house level. He sees you, he lets loose this horrible scream sound, and then proceeds to sprint after you. And before you even get over that initial moment of shock that Freddy is dashing right for you, you're already dead. Yeah, that's fun. Bonnie is the same way in the basement, except he's just a little bit faster. Foxy is Foxy, and he'll run at you with sonic speeds like he does in FNAF 1. And Chica's level is something ripped straight out of Slender, where you have to collect 10 drawings off trees in a forest. Sound familiar? Overall, the Joy of Creation Reborn is absolutely fantastic. The terror of being chased is nailed down perfectly by Nixon here, and I'm sure a lot of you who played this game can agree that being chased by Freddy through the halls of a house is freaking horrifying. Are you brave enough to take on this game? If you are, click the link in the description. The game is on the same page as the story mode, so it's easy to find. And that's it! The top 5 scariest FNAF fan games. Once again, this list was completely opinion-based, as I worked together with my Discord server on this to come up with the best choices. The games on here might not be scary to you at all, or there might be games out there that you find scarier than these. Be sure to leave your comments down below on the games you think should have been included. Who knows, I might do another list similar to this topic in the future. We'll just have to see. Thanks again for watching another one of my top 5s. I hope you enjoyed, and be sure to check out my other top 5s if you haven't, and be sure to subscribe for more gameplay content on this channel. See you guys next time!